Welcome back, everybody, to this week's Independent Voter Podcast. I'm joined, as usually, with Cara McCormick, my friend on the East Coast. Cara, how you doing? I heard there's some snow out there now.
We got our first snow yesterday, Chad. And then, it was pretty dreary while it was coming down. It's pretty, but then today it's sunny and blue sky. So it's very cold, but it's very beautiful.
I'm sitting here in San Diego. I want some snow every once in a while, though, but we can
Oh,
drive
well,
a
you can
couple
always
hours
come
and
and
get
visit.
some. But
It's really fun in Maine and, for first snow, but then, it does really drag on when it gets to be March and April, I have to say. That's when I'm longing to be in San Diego with you.
yeah, well, I mean, a lot of folks from the reform world are driving to a similar place to San Diego. They're going to Miami right now. I think they got the annual National Association of Nonpartisan Reform Conference. For those of you who don't know, there actually is an organization that gets folks together who talk about the wonky world of nonpartisan reform. Norm, Cara, you've been there. Normally, I would be there. Regrettably, I can't. I'm doing my 4-year-old in business becking calls, but I was actually there. I'm technically on the board. Unfortunately, can't make it this year, but there's a lot of great people, people I really respect that wake up and are really leading the front lines of whether it's ranked choice voting or open primaries or all this slew of issues that really cut through partisan lines. They're all meeting in Miami this week.
I feel like that both you and I were on the ground floor of starting the National Association of Nonpartisan Reformers, and I'm trying to remember when that was exactly. Has it been 10 years or 8 years maybe?
Well, I think what became the association probably was about 10 years ago. Remember, we had meetings in Half Moon Bay. Greg Orman hosted a meeting in
Oh,
Kansas.
yeah, I went to that one.
Yeah, we had a meeting in Pebble Beach, right? And Catherine Gale helped organize some of these, right? And then I think it was the one at Greg's was the last one, where at the end everybody's like, "We keep getting together and talk about this. What's going to happen?" So that's when I just drew up some documents. I said, "Okay, let's do it," right? And then
Yeah.
we had Fairvote joined us, and Nick from Unite America represent us at the time. That was I'm trying to think of the. It'll come back to me. But there's I think ten of us. I'm from 10 different organizations that got it off the ground, and there you go. Now there's kind of serves as a hub. Not everybody agrees with each other on everything is not the purpose of the organization, but to have some kind of connective tissue and build have a vehicle for building institutional knowledge on these issues that are not going to be, the parties aren't the vehicle for pushing nonpartisan reform.
And, it's really interesting that you say that, like, institutional knowledge in the independent space
Like you're an
among
institution.
reformers, like, this is very important for people to get together and share their battle stories
Okay.
because we can learn from one another even if we're working on different kinds of reforms, like, as long as they're structural reforms and as long as they're reforms that the 2 major parties and their operatives are gonna be against, it really helps to compare notes with
Yeah.
other
Well,
people in other states because for sure, like, Oklahoma is different than Maine, no doubt, but the tactics that people use to try to stop these reforms are similar, and often even you can look and see like, "Oh, they tried something in Maine, and then maybe we were able to successfully battle that," and so somebody in Oklahoma or Virginia or wherever else it's going on says, "Oh, they tried to do that in Maine and they were unsuccessful, so maybe we should come up with something
well,
different," right?
they were unsuccessful because Cara McCormick was there, right? But in all seriousness, it's a totally different game. People don't understand you don't have a team, you don't have a structure. So like when you passed ranked choice voting in Maine, like that wasn't the end of it. You then had the legislature tried to repeal it, and then took you to court, and then they did this, right? When they passed it in California, the top 2 primary, right? There was 3 cases of litigation, even from people I respect and I like and are big proponents of other reforms, challenging it, but there's no vehicle there, like, there's no party to turn to and say, "Hey, defend us," and you gotta just go in there, and the experience is so different. I mean, we just posted something on our, I think, Instagram and Facebook the other day, about this hearing in DC. Here
Yeah.
where you have a case where DC went from a closed, municipal elections to nonpartisan, top 4, top 5,
Top
right? And
5.
top 5
Yeah.
with ranked choice,
Yep.
in the general election, kinda like very similar to Alaska, but, like, they got both open primaries and ranked choice, this great reform, and you see the council members pressing, the woman who's in charge of implementation, right? This was past 73%.
Yeah.
Now, Kara, give me your take on this. Is this a surprise that you're seeing what's going on here in DC?
Not at all. So it's really interesting, DC. So just like you said, 73% of the vote, super majority in every single district in Washington, DC voted for this top 5, which basically means it's an open primary, or it was meant to be. This is what they voted for. Okay. They voted for an open primary where anybody can participate. And then the top 5 move to the general election, and in the general election, they get ranked, and it's tabulated using ranked choice voting, and whoever gets to 50% first wins. So, very cool, and, but what they left open to the council in the legislation was they said, "This is what we want, and the council has to decide to fund it or not." Okay.
Right.
So, right here, they left something up to the politicians that and what they left on the table, and here's what they did with it. Apparently, they decided to only implement the ranked choice voting part of the initiative, which passed with 73% of the vote. So they said, "We're not gonna fund the open primaries part of this. We're only gonna fund the ranked choice voting part of this." So that is a huge distortion of what the
Mhm.
people actually wanted. There's so many independent voters in DC that are shut out. Like, that's the reason why it passed. People want access to the
Right.
ballot,
But it
right?
goes to show, you see what happened in New York, right? They passed, there was the combination and everybody celebrate. I actually still think it's a great thing that what happened in New York implementing ranked choice voting. But the reason it passed was because, there was kind of okay, we'll do the ranked choice, but we're keeping that closed primary thing, right? And so kind of I think this is why it's important why there's groups that get together right now in Miami, right?
Yes.
Because there's groups like Open Primaries and you have the folks like John Updike and Jeremy Gruber, who are really more hyper focused on open primaries and understand that it's this first stage of the election process is the way they can, monopolize the system, right? If they say, okay, well, we can have ranked choice voting in the general election as long as we can determine who you get to rank, right? Then we're still in control of the outcome, right? And so that perspective, right, is, why you see these challenges and what's going on in DC is like, okay, we need those ranked choice voting. And then within the ranked choice voting world, there's a whole, we'll get into someday the dynamics there, but like why these worlds need to talk to each other because they're different ways that elections can be manipulated. And then these ways to improve them are allowing everybody to vote, give people more choices, allow them to rank, right? So it's just a very wonky discussion, and I'm just happy that there's 100 or 200 people in, in Miami that are take the time and have the time in their lives to go and work these things out.
Yeah, and then just to share, like what you're talking about, like John Opdyke and Jeremy Gruber, those guys have been at this for even longer than I have. And they have sort of been through all these battles, and they can share those experiences. Like I always described it like we're in like a river together, and some of us are just further downstream than some of the others. And, you know, but it's such.
A few of us can't swim.
Right, right, that's true, that's true. A few of us are drowning, but to share these stories and like I said before, like, the way that they obstruct it is the same. So I was having total PTSD when I was reading about the situation in Washington, D.C. and trying to get implemented. And I guess I would say to, like, everyone out there, like, if you're thinking of starting a reform and doing this in your state or your city and trying to change the way that people vote, like, plan for a decade-long thing. It's not just like, "We're gonna get on the ballot and we're gonna win, and then everything's gonna be great," because that is seriously only
B
a
I w
very small part of this.
I gotta encourage the folks to I mean, it sounds so boring and yeah, okay, but, like, watch the clip that we put on social media, right? This commissioner is fantastic, and I don't know, I didn't go check, but I would say with pretty certain confidence that she's probably a Democrat. I mean, this is a Democrat dominated, everybody appointed's part of that, right? So it's not like, it just shows you how nonpartisan this form. She was fantastic, right? Because she's being fed, like, these lines I honestly don't think these council members believe a word they're saying, right? But they're being instructed to delay this,
Yeah,
right? Don't let this
let's
in.
unpack it a
Right.
little bit, like,
Yeah,
so so basically, the council back in June or July of 2025, they hacked up what the people wanted, and they
right.
threw out the open primaries part. Now, it's time to implement ranked choice voting in time for a very competitive election that's gonna happen in June of 2026. And so the administrator there, the person who's in charge of implementing the new law, came before the council last week and they started asking her these questions like, "Well, are you sure you're ready? Well, are you sure it's not going to be a disaster?" And she at a certain point was like, "God, I really feel like I'm like going to become the fall guy for this. Like, yeah, I think we're ready.
But
Like, we have all these
she
people who've
saw
done it
through
before
it.
that are helping us, and yeah, you guys funded it, and yeah, the voters voted for it, but the council members were like, "But are you really sure that the sky is not gonna fall and that
Right.
it's gonna work?" And sort of trying to sow doubt, and then there was a council member who decided he wanted to, put forward a proposal to
Mhm.
delay the implementation of ranked choice voting. Now, it turns out last night he didn't have the votes to do that, to even bring it forward. So that's good news, but he's gonna bring it back in January. And let me tell you, like, there's gonna be a lawsuit. They're gonna keep trying to delay it because the people who wanna stop reform at this level, like, the worst thing for them is when it gets implemented. When people actually get to use it for the first time,
Right. Because
like,
then all
once the people have
the
it,
boogeymen are gone. The
good luck.
boogeymen are gone. Wait a second,
Yes,
we used it. It didn't the sky didn't fall like you said, and we like the
exactly.
outcome, right? We did, I mean, that's just a studies show on open that's why, I mean, yeah, I'm saying this out loud now. I mean, they're gonna gun for California's nonpartisan primary. It's just a matter of time. I mean, look at and don't think that the folks aren't emboldened. Look, I'm going back. I'm not attacking Newsom's like political strategy and all that stuff. But look what he did in his race for president. He took one of the most sacred cows, right? That people, if you ask people in a poll, do you want independent redistricting commission? I mean, they're like 90%, right? If you don't load the questions. I mean, California got rid of the Independent Redistricting Commission, albeit for just congressional races and on a short-term basis, but they got voters to say, "Yeah, go ahead and gerrymander our districts," right? So, even though voters love open primaries and nonpartisan primaries, I mean, if there's a political opportunity to gun for it and close California's primaries, just like they're trying to prevent open primaries in DC, just like they didn't want ranked choice voting with open primaries in New York, they're going to take it, right? And
That's
yeah,
like goes back to something that we talk about a lot on this show, which is that, the everybody's gonna use the tools on the table that are available to them, right? They're gonna push it as far as they can possibly push it, and that's sort of where we're at this point in our politics, and maybe it's always been maybe that's, like, since Roman times, I don't know, you know, m
well,
maybe
at least we're not using weapons, weaponry, right? That's the ultimate. I mean, but that's what
No!
you,
No,
that's the whole point.
and it's a great thing, like, we have any of this is totally
It's the
great,
whole
and that's
point
what
of
I'll always
government, right?
say.
So we don't fight with each other, and kill ourselves. That's why we have a government.
And we get to debate and we get to have this these systems like these constitutions and charters that let us improve things, and it's just hard. It's just
Yeah.
hard work, and, but it's great work. And, yeah, so the National Association of Nonpartisan Reformers are, hopefully they're gonna have a great conference, go over their best practices together, get a little sun in Miami, and, maybe some people will be inspired, uh, and, go on to do some reforms in their own communities. Like, I've always thought, like, it really does work when the reforms comes from the community itself
Yeah.
rather than from
It
an
and
outsider trying to
it's
say,
really
like, "Let's do
difficult.
this."
And, but that's why it's so slow to develop and hard though, because it is complex and it's nuanced and it's like you got right, you gotta know a lot, right? And then so for it to develop in the community, right, and then have the resources because we're busy, especially if you're not if you're in politics, you're probably within one of the parties, right? And so to develop a nonpartisan reform, right, and find enough people willing to that have the time to go and really try, it's tough. But
But you're
I
also, like,
digress.
pushing up against, everybody thinks you're gonna lose,
Yeah,
right? So,
right.
no one thinks you're gonna be able to win, and so there's all this, I don't know, doom and gloom associated with it, sort of like, "Oh, well,
Yeah,
like, people just all these people trying really hard,"
yeah,
which is why, like, I'm so sick of this sounds bad, but
yeah.
trying really hard is not gonna get anything done in this world. Like,
Uh,
you can keep trying and you can say, keep trying and trying and trying. It's not, you have to, like, choose something to do that actually matters. Like, write a law, go get signatures. Like,
uh,
do real things, do actual things. Don't just be an activist about it. Like, actually do things. Like, there has to be something um more than just sitting around and talking about how bad it is, and that you sort of want to do something, but then not actually doing the thing that is there for
yeah.
that the Constitution gives you the ability to do, like, no matter how hard it is.
Right. It is, yeah, it is hard. Well, hopefully, Shawn Griffiths, those of you who follow and come to IVN.us, you got to know Shawn. I think talking about institutional knowledge, just Shawn's probably is the institutional knowledge. That guy knows where every reform and every person in the reform, but he's out there. He is in NANR. He's going to be talking to the folks. I'll look forward to his election roundup because I imagine it's going to be quite robust this week with all the folks he'll be talking to. Before we head out today, I wanted to go something outside the real reform space. Is some of the things that we cover here on IVN, and Cara, you've taken the lead on some of these stories that have gotten quite a bit of attention. Is just sometimes some things come to you and you were got a outreach by someone from a veterans organization and just published an article on some of the policy issues that kind of go underneath the national narrative. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on in California and these veteran benefits that, regardless of party, I think it's probably something people would want to be aware of.
So yeah, it's actually a nationwide fight that's going on all over the place. California's got a bill, Maine's got, there's bills in all different state legislatures, and basically it comes down to that when veterans get disability, when they apply for disability with the VA, there's all these organizations that can help them for free navigate the paperwork and the bureaucracy with the VA to get them their disability benefits. And the bureaucracy does take some time to get through. And so, but there's like organizations like the VFW and different sort of well-known American Legion type organizations that for free will give veterans help. But this is America, so there are also some for-profit consulting firms that have sprung up that for a fee will offer to help veterans. So if a veteran gets, a certain amount in disabilities, they'll have to pay these groups, like one's called Veterans Guardian, as a fee for helping them get
Yeah.
these
And
benefits.
so what's the rub? What are they doing that's untoward?
Well, first of all, it's illegal under federal law.
Well, that's that's significant.
So they found a loophole. Like, what else is new?
Mhm.
These for-profit companies have found a loophole in the law, and they're pouring millions and millions of dollars into lobbying and legal fights to try to preserve their ability to do this. And, but they're for the most part operating outside of the law. So there's several bills in Congress, there's bills in California trying to stop them. And then
Sounds like our coverage of the hemp industry, right?
it's
Where it was
similar.
illegal and they claimed a loophole, and then they go and lobby to try to keep the loophole permanent, right?
This is how it really
Th
works.
how it
This is
really
how it really
works.
works. There's been some great investigative work done by the Washington Post about this issue. We're certainly not the first ones to break the story, but it's interesting. Just a few days after we wrote the story, there's a big story on NPR about this very thing. So it's getting quite a lot of attention, and it's all over the country. In California, it's the largest veterans population in the country, so you can imagine that these companies are really hot to try to stop this bill called, Senate Bill 694, and that bill would let the Attorney General of the state of California prosecute any unaccredited consultants. So in order to be a consultant, a legit consultant who's free, you have to get accredited. You have to go through
Mhm.
all kinds of training, and but these unaccredited consultants are the ones that are
Yeah.
kind of breaking the
It's like
rules.
the same thing happened. I mean, we just talked the cannabis industry. I remember when, the solar power stuff came and they had the first tax credits and stuff for solar power is very similar. Like all of a sudden there was like there's solar panel vendors like on every street corner, right? And then with like no experience, and then people, oh, they got holes in their roof and nobody to call these companies, so it's just like the same thing goes over and over with a new industry and a new, like I think what's particularly difficult about this one is, I mean, you're messing with people's lives, not only people's life, veterans' lives, people that gave up their lives for this country, and you got, you know, I'm sure there's good actors just like in everything else, but there's a whole bunch of bad actors just trying to make a buck, and the consequences is like, messing with veterans who are already having a tough enough time as it is.
Well, these are disabled veterans too. So
Right.
these are people
Yeah.
who are suffering from disabilities and who are not able to work in many cases, or only able to work part-time. And they're having, of course, there's so many veterans right now who are disabled as a result of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. There was, the controversy with the burn pits. And so there's lots and lots of claims. And so it does take time. And of course, these companies are also advertising to benefits, get your benefits faster. And they're not necessarily saying like, "Come to us and pay us
And
thousands
they're
and
taking a
thousands of
piece
dollars
of
to
those
help you
they're
when you can get it for free."
right.
Like,
Yeah, but I
it's a
assume
vulnerable
they're getting it
population.
because yeah, because they're getting then taking a cut of those benefits before they get to the veteran, I assume. That's how they're making money, right?
Yeah, and like I said, the free assistance, the accredited assistance is totally available through like the American Legion, the Disabled American Veterans, AMVETS, the Veterans of Foreign Wars. All these there's these people who are veteran service officers in cities and counties all over the country. These are the accredited people. These are the people who had to, pass background checks. They had to take training courses. They have to do things in order to get accredited.
Yeah.
And these private firms kind of
Just skip it all over.
skip right
Well, I
over
think
all that.
we're wrapping up on this week. We got a lot going on. You said there's gonna be a lot coming out of NANR. We'll keep following what's going on in DC and New York, and, the race for California governor just keeps getting bigger. We'll cover that. We're getting ready to do, I think, what will be the largest survey of independent voters in the country here in a couple weeks. We'll talk more about that, but we got a lot of exciting things coming up. I'm very excited for next year. Carrie, you got anything else besides sending your kids back to college again? Well, they should be back home here in a couple weeks again, right?
Yeah, it goes quick that first semester of college. They're gonna come home. I think we're gonna have kind of a low key Christmas here in Maine. Not a lot of plans. I think just a lot of like R&R. Hopefully some, fires
That's
and hot chocolate, and
that's
maybe a
my
little
plan.
skiing if we can pull it off.
Yeah, that's my plan. Skiing's a little tough with the 2 and the 4-year-olds still, but I mean, we've spent Christmas in Brazil at Arielli's family's house, and then we've, been traveling so much. I think we went just between conferences in Brazil and all that. We're like, okay, we're just gonna stay home,
Yeah.
right? We already got our Christmas tree up, and like okay, it's ready for us to be here. We got the elf on the shelf every
Oh my
day
god, I love
that
the
the
elf
kids
on the
the kids
shelf.
are the kids, like, they wake up like, "Where is he? Where is he?"
It's the
So,
best. It's the
it's pretty cool.
best. It's so, so wonderful when you have little
Yeah,
kids at the holidays. Just
yeah.
makes it really fun. But I have to say, like, it's fun when they get older too, but it's more expensive. I'll just let you know that
It
they
gets more expensive?
well, the gifts that they ask for are just
Uh,
more expensive. And I'm not saying that it's not expensive for you, but
well, I'll have to give him Aunt Kara's, phone number so he
that's
can
right. I love that elf on the shelf though. Like those we would sometimes forget, my husband and I,
Yeah,
because ours was named Happy, and we'd move
yeah.
him around the house, and we'd forget, and sometimes, Peter would wake up in the night like, "Oh my god, I forgot to move Happy," 'cause, you know
Yeah, yeah, it's gotta be in a different spot,
Ugh,
so alright, well, share some more, elf stories and
yeah,
reform stories here next week, but,
alright.
to everybody else, check back on IVN.us. We have some good stories coming up. Ethan, who's actually in office right here sitting next to me, has been putting together some pretty good reels there on,
Thank you, Ethan.
Instagram. One day we'll get him on camera. Alright, well, happy holidays. Lena, our producer's telling me, "Chad, shut up. Let's get going." So see you all next week. Thank you, Kara.
Thanks, Chad, it's great to see you. Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, Lena.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
This is the Independent Voter Podcast, sponsored by the Independent Voter Project and produced by OLAS Media. Remember, you can always find the Independent Voter Podcast or the How It Really Works series at ivn.us. Follow and subscribe at olasmedia.com.
OLAS Media.